Today I'm going to remaster the Orc for Dungeons & Dragons 5e. Now the Orc is a very common monster that we use, and it's actually really well designed for Dungeons & Dragons 5e. I've found generally the mathematics behind it and how they operate is pretty good. The only thing I find is that if I use a small number, they're usually wiped out within about 1 to 1.5 rounds. If I use too many, they can be a problem for the front line. Trying to scale them is really hard, and it's only a challenge rating half. So they'll be facing level 1 characters. Level 1 characters, this is where the real problem is. Level 2, it's not so bad. Level 3, they're never really a huge challenge. Okay, so when I looked at the armor class is 13. I didn't change it. It's actually perfectly fine for the CR that we have. The hit points are different. It had about 15 hit points, and I've bumped that up because I want my timer. I've almost doubled it in terms of the maximum and the average. Now the reason being is I want it to go for about 3 rounds before we finish our combat if I have 2 of these orcs and they're facing 4 or 5 player characters. So it's now a 5d8 plus 15, which means our top end for really experienced players will be 55 and 37 for the least experienced individuals who haven't got a lot of familiarity with the game. So I added one skill, and that is athletics plus 5. The reason being that when the players try to grapple or shove them, I think it should be much harder than it currently is, and a plus 3 wouldn't be good enough. The intimidation skill is still there. I know it's probably not going to come into play unless you have some sort of game mechanics around some sort of social interaction, but it's there for those people who want to use it. Dark vision was 60 feet, it's now 120 feet. I didn't change anything else, it's all fine. Aggression, I did change aggression. So instead of the way it was worded, using a bonus action, when the orc uses its movement towards a hostile creature that it can see, it doubles its movement speed. This means you're only thinking in terms of movement, okay, whatever you do with your movement and whatever you do with your action and whatever you want to do with your reaction or your free action. So I'm eliminating one of those things to process as a game master. I've added in rage because I wanted to sort of indicate that they like to fight up close. So when the orc attacks opponents in melee combat, its bloodlust assists in hitting the enemy, and it gains a +1 bonus on attack bonus. So the reason for doing this is that the attack bonus at 5 was pretty spot on as far as I'm concerned for a half challenge rating. Facing level 1 characters should be very close to what they have already. Bumping it up by 1 won't make it too much. If I gave them advantage, made it reckless, it would be too much. If the players have advantage against the orcs, that's not the big issue. The big issue is there's a much greater chance of a critical hit. And when you're rolling a 12-sided dice with a monster and you're facing level 1 characters, it can be a bit rough. The average damage is the same. I did not change it. It's actually perfectly fine. The javelin attack, perfectly fine, and the damage output, all within the parameters that an orc should probably have. There's not a lot that needs to be done to the orc, frankly. I think Wizards of the Coast has done a pretty good job. I wouldn't expect a lot of changes in the new version when they release their new monster manual. So well done, Wizards of the Coast. Nice job. Very, very simple changes. I'll put all these changes in this document up onto Patreon for those of you who want it.